Hey, what's up, everyone? Kino here, back with a whole new reaction series. So I just sat down and watched the first episode of 6 Feet Under, which is a show that I've heard good things about. People. It's not as common as some of the other recommendations I get. It's not like The Wire or Mad Men, but it is one of these HBO critically acclaimed dramas that people bring up. And I thought I would check it out. And I just watched the first episode. I don't know if it had a name or not. I just kind of hit play right on when I clicked on it. So, um, interesting pilot. I knew it was about like a funeral home, like a family that runs a funeral home. Um, and I kind of instantly picked up that, like, oh, okay, this is like a quirky, family that has like, they're kind of jaded, they're kind of cynical. It's funny. It reminded me a little bit of Succession. The family dynamic, and the sister kind of looks like the sister from Succession too, which I just thought was kind of funny. Different vibes of the show, but that same kind of energy from the family all together. What happens in this episode is this family runs a funeral home. One of the sons, I think his name is Nate. It takes me a little while to remember all the characters' names, but is flying in to spend Christmas. It takes place on Christmas Eve, and uh, when the dad's on his way to pick up the son, he gets into a car accident because he was smoking a cigarette, which his wife told him not to do, and he dies instantly. So this family, who are all very dysfunctional in their own way. There's the mother, who's kind of like this, she's a little bit wound up. We learned some stuff about her later in the episode, but we got the mother. We have the son who stay. I think he's like the middle son. He stayed there. His name's David. It's Michael C. Hall, who I think this is before Dexter, but you'll recognize her from that show. But he's the son who stayed and worked at the funeral home. He's like a very perfect person. Like, he tries to maintain control, but he's wound very, very tight. We learn he's also in the closet, so there's that angle on top of it too. But that's one of them. And then there's the sister, who's a drug addict. She's the youngest. She's kind of like a party girl. And they all have to kind of deal with the fact that their father's now dead. Nate, the son who's coming back in, he kind of he ran away from home, basically. Not like ran away, but like he left out onto his own. Lives out in Seattle, although it's kind of implied that he's like a loser out there. I'll be honest. Nate was the one character who I was like, I didn't like him specifically so far. He didn't really grab me. He felt like it was hard to follow, like, what's his deal? Like, is he the cool one? Is he a loser? Is he whiny and emotional? Is he the stoic strong one? He kind of went back and forth a little bit here, versus the other two had kind of much more cleaner characterizations. I also felt his storyline this episode was a little weird. He has this girl he hooked up with at the airport because I guess he's such a stud or whatever. Um, and I don't know. I didn't like their little relationship. Um, I didn't understand what her deal was. I think she might be lying. She says that she's going to see her family too. Um, and they're all crazy, but we don't see that. We see her address someone as honey, so that might be her husband or something. So maybe she's lying to this guy. I couldn't really tell exactly what her deal was, but I didn't find her charming. I didn't the two of them together, I was like, both these characters are kind of bland to me. I don't really get them. And I thought they were the weakest point, which I think this guy Nate is the main character. I don't know if that's the case or not, but he kind of seems like it is. So, and he has this whole thing about like bringing humanity back to the funeral business, and it's like I don't know. I don't find him that engaging yet. It might pick up later on as the series goes, but for now I didn't enjoy him that much. I also will say, for being as quirky and interesting as his show is, and I did find it sort of interesting, but I also found a lot of the dialogue a little weak. I found they just kind of like said what was happening. They're like, Nate, you're coasting on your good looks, and you don't take anything seriously, or blah blah blah. Or David, you're wound up too tight, and you're judgmental, and you're in the closet. Like they just kind of like say a lot of like the subtext of the show, which I appreciate that this is an old show. Like this came out back in the day. It's one of the earlier shows that HBO did. But I'm like, yeah, no, I've seen better done of this. Like, again, kind of Succession reminds me of this. It's like a similar vibe, but they don't necessarily just state outright, hey, here's your character flaw, here's your blah blah blah. So I found the writing a little weak. When it was working, I thought it was okay. This is kind of cute. But when it wasn't working, I was like, this is dragging a little bit. So, um, we'll see how things go. Like I said, I don't really know too much about what people think about this show. I've heard relatively good things, so I'm gonna keep watching it. But for now, I thought it's a mixed bag. I'd say it's probably like a 6 or 7 out of 10 for this episode. Not awful, but not it didn't blow me away or anything like that. So, but we'll see how it goes from here. They also have some more quirks. Like there's these commercials that are obviously meant to like um how inappropriate it is to kind of have these upbeat commercials for funeral products. Also the characters all see the dad in this episode. I don't know if that's going to continue, like they're going to see the dad every episode. It kind of seemed like the dad was leaving for the afterlife at the end, and I don't mean literally. Like I don't think they were literally seeing him. It's more so like their it's their psychology. Like the dad represents their doubts or fears or whatever, and they're just expressing it through talking with their dad. I don't know if that's going to continue every episode, or maybe they're going to see other dead people. Like maybe that'll be the gimmick of the show. Like every episode when they're fixing someone at the funeral home, they'll imagine this person and talk to them, and kind of have a back and forth. So I don't know if that's what they're gonna do, but it seemed like another quirk of the show. But either way, I think I'll leave it there. I'll watch the next episode soon and get back to you with the next reaction. So talk to you then. Hey, what's up, everyone? Kino here, back with another 6 Feet Under reaction. Just watched the second episode, so following up from the pilot. Continuing where we left off, everyone's kind of settling into this new paradigm that they find themselves in with the dad being dead. All three of the kids have their own, we learned about their different personalities and stuff and their own struggles that they're going through. At the beginning of this episode, they read the will of the dad, and they find out that he left something to each of them. The two sons each get half of the business. The mom gets all like the money that's left over from their accounts and the life insurance. It sounds like she's making out pretty good. She's got like a $500,000 life insurance policy or something, so she's making out pretty good. And the daughter has her college tuition in a trust. So they each get something, but they're all very unhappy with what they got. David feels like he should have got the whole business because he was the one who was actually there working. Nate doesn't really like, he doesn't want to do any of this. And then Claire doesn't really want to go to college, or she's not sure yet. And she doesn't know what she wants to do. She's like angsty fucking teenage bullshit, whatever. So they're all kind of dealing with their own stuff this episode. Nate's learning the business. He's making a lot of mistakes, because he doesn't know how the business operates. David, he struggles because he's wound so tight. Like he's such like he's kind of an asshole. He's just like very unlikable person because he's wound so tight and so judgmental. And even though he thinks like, oh, I'm perfect or whatever because I do all of the stuff, a lot of people don't like him because he's just kind of, he's just kind of negative. He's just wound too tight. He has an ex fiance who she knows he's gay, but I don't know what his deal is. Maybe he just kind of can't accept his being gay because he suggests that they have sex, but it might have just been his like this like self hatred. It seems to be kind of focused on the dad. Like he feels like the dad judges him for being gay. Like they each have the vision of the dad. And again, I don't think it's really a ghost. I think it's their own fears and anxieties made manifest in these conversations they're having with their dad. And a lot of David's is very negative. It's very like you're not good enough. You're gay, so you're not gonna have any children. I think the visions of the dad represent his kind of self hatred a little bit about being gay. By the way, the creator of the series, Alan Ball, I think he's gay too. I read it in that book that I talked about, Difficult Men. And so I think the character of David is kind of autobiographical to him a little bit. I don't know, but yeah, I mean it's an interesting thing. I like his storyline. Like he's a very solid character. Nate, I always feel like I don't really I have a hard time vibing with him. Like I don't know what his deal is yet. He's sort of like Jeff Winger from Community, where he's like the smooth talking lazy one, but he's not quite there. Like they don't commit to that idea. He's very cool and stuff, but also kind of not really like yeah, just he's not been solidified into like I really grasp what this character is about. The same is true of his girlfriend Brenda. No, I have zero read on her so far. Is she crazy? What's her deal? Why does she have his name tattooed on her? She says it's another guy. Don't know what that is yet. We saw a guy before in the first episode. I don't know who that is, if that's her husband or boyfriend or a relative or something. She called him Honeys. That's just why I'm like, who is this guy? She's like, I guess she's like a psychology person. So in this episode, she kind of helps the brothers get over their father's death a little bit, but I don't have a solid read on her. And the sister, I don't. I mean, she's just like her whiny teenage phase. She has this boy she's like sleeping with. It's the one she was doing drugs with last episode. Weird scene between the two of them where he wants her to kiss his feet, which I was like, does this guy have like a reverse foot fetish? Because guys with foot fetishes, they like the woman's feet. Usually, I've never heard of a situation like they want the girl to like be into his feet. I've never heard of that before. It doesn't go anywhere in this episode. Maybe it will go somewhere next episode, but it's just kind of a weird little detail to throw in there. But I don't know what her deal is yet. We haven't. She's definitely been on the back foot in terms of the story these last two episodes, but we'll have to kind of see where she goes from here. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. That we got a little bit more of the mom. I like the mom to an extent. She's sort of like halfway between like Olivia Soprano type character and the more like traditional loving mother. Like she's kind of like got this like negativity to her too, but not fully. Like she's not like and she's not like toxic or anything. She's just kind of like, she's got her own thing going on with this guy she was cheating on her husband with. Again, a lot of these characters I feel like I'm not fully grasping who they are yet. And again, the show has this kind of very like not quirky, it's not the right word, but it has this kind of like sarcastic, like, ooh, isn't this, it's serious subjects, but we're treating it with this kind of ironic detachment. um so it's a little hard to get a firm grasp on some of these characters, and like what what am I supposed to be getting from you? Like, it's just, I more so than other shows. Like, I don't feel like I have a full grasp on who these characters are yet. But we'll see how it goes. But either way, that's it for this reaction. I'll watch the next episode soon and talk to you then. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back with another reaction. Just watched the third episode, I think it is, of the first season, and this was a good one. I liked it a lot. In this episode, they're dealing with a number of things still. They still have that company kind of breathing down their neck, and they're like planning on selling, but then the brother doesn't want to. So they decide not to sell, but then the other business is gonna decides they're gonna put them out of business, basically by messing with their suppliers, competing against them. They're gonna open up a cremation place across the street, and all this stuff to drive them out of business since they can't own them. I will say I didn't. All this stuff about like the business of running the funeral home, I didn't think we were gonna get so into that. I thought like we're gonna kind of more do like a funeral of the week type thing, and that is what they've been doing. But I will say that there's been a lot more focus on like the financial aspect of it, more so than like, here's the kind of people you run into at a funeral. They did a little bit of that in this episode. They're like, oh, she's gonna jump into the coffin kind of thing. I will say I would like more of that aspect rather than just the business side of it. It's like, the business side is important too, but I would rather be like, oh, here's the kind of problems that come up as you're running a funeral service. And I think they'll deal with that, but it's just that's not been the main focus. Meanwhile, though, the sister, she's dealing with something in this episode. So the boy whose toe she sucked, told people, and then I don't know. There's just I don't think this is real, but this is such a thing of like early 2000s portrayals of bullying where they're like they spray paint her car toe sucker, and it's like I don't I don't believe this. Like, maybe it's true. That was a little bit before my time. I wasn't that young back then, or I wasn't that old back then, but um I don't believe in this portrayal of bullying. Like, sure, would they make fun of her or whisper behind her back, but this very dramatic like spray painting of stuff. I think a lot of early 2000s media like hyper exaggerates how like the level that they would do stuff like that. But regardless, she's pissed off. So she steals a foot from one of the corpses that they have in the funeral service and puts it in a boy's locker to freak him out. But then he throws the foot away, and so they've lost the foot, and they're worried the family's going to sue them, so they have to scramble. At the end of the episode, though, the daughter Claire burns down the house where they were going to set up the rival cremation service. So yeah, she's kind of disturbed kid, but she does what she's got to do. So I find that pretty cool. But the other aspect that I like in this episode, there's more stuff with Nate and that girl. I don't know what her whole deal is. She took a phone call that she was like, I'll be honest, I don't really like this chick. I find her so hard to read. I don't have a good grasp on her. And I don't, like I said, Nate is not really my favorite either, so I don't really like their storylines too much. I will say though, there was one aspect of this I really liked, which was the cop that Keith, I think, the one that David is dating. The sister knows he's gay too, but I like he had this line where he's talking about why he likes David, and he's like, oh, people want me to be a certain way, and he doesn't want to be that way. He wants to just be himself, and he can be himself around David. And I don't know, I just like that line a lot. I thought that was there's a very interesting way to look at a character to be like, yeah, this guy probably is, kind of stereotyped and kind of, people tend to project what they want from you onto you depending on how you look like or how you act like or whatever. And so I don't know. I like that idea of like, oh, okay, the reason he likes David is because he can really be himself and not, he doesn't have to be like a stereotype, around David. So I found that an interesting character angle. I like the two of them together. Like we'll see if it lasts. David is kind of a very like selfish asshole type character. Um, Even though I sort of understand why he's that way, like, but it's like you gotta calm down a little bit, dude. You're way too high strung. So I think I have this sneaking suspicion that he's gonna ruin that relationship, but we'll really have to see. But overall, solid episode. I found it very funny, enjoyable. I might watch another one here. But either way, I'll talk to you at the next recording. So see you then. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back with another reaction. Just watch the fourth episode, I think it is, of season one, Familia. In this episode, they do a funeral for this Latino gangbanger who was killed. And I just have to say up front that like this, it's immediately apparent that this was episode was written by white people in the early 2000s. Like this does not feel like a accurate representation of like Latino gangbanger culture or the way they talk or anything like that. Not that I'm saying I'm familiar with any of that stuff, but like this feels like people who didn't really know about this stuff writing about this stuff. So I mean it's not that bad honestly, but it is kind of noticeable. But setting that aside, they're doing this funeral. They're still dealing with the aftermath of what happened with last episode with the fire. They all think Claire did it. I thought Claire did it too. It's actually revealed that she didn't do it, but they all think she did it. They're worried about that. They're trying to figure out a way to save the business. They come up with a plan, but they need investment from their mom. So the mom is going to be an investor in the business from now on. Meanwhile, they do something which they hadn't done for a while now, which was they talk to the dead body. I said in the first episode that I thought that like they do a funeral of the week episode. I thought that they would interact with like the dead person, even though it's not really like a ghost. It's more like their subconscious. But I thought that was going to be a recurring thing. They really had it. They hadn't done that since the first episode. But in this one, David actually interacts with the gangbanger. He again, it's a representation of David, and there's actually a really cute detail which I thought of. So David, in this episode in the show is like not familiar with Mexican culture, any of this kind of stuff. In fact, he even has Federico kind of talk to the family, even though he's Puerto Rican. They also did this trope, which was like, you white people, you just assume that I know about gang stuff, and it's like, that's such a trope from right now, but like, I guess it was a trope back then too, the ignorant white people who don't know anything. It's like, it's very played out nowadays, but it was probably fresher back then. But anyway, my point was, when he's talking with Paco, I think the guy's name is, he's talking about the funeral service, and he's like, yeah, no sharks and no jets, which is a reference to West Side Story. And I don't think that like this guy would actually make that reference if he was alive, but I thought it was a cute detail because the guy is just a representation of David's imagination and subconscious. So the only thing that David can relate to Latino gangbangers is West Side Story, So I thought that was a nice touch they added in there. But in his interactions with the dead guy's kind of telling him to like man up, stop being a bitch. He got into a fight with his boyfriend Keith because some guy called them a bad word for gay people, and David's like, oh, what does it matter? Just let it go. And Keith was trying to explain that like he doesn't want to get pushed around like that. And it was also I think it's also a matter of David like just kind of not ever like stepping up or like being confrontational. He just bottles it inside of him. So the guy, his subconscious was encouraging him to like man up and like stand up for yourself, and he does that with Kroner in this episode. So I thought that was pretty nice. We get more stuff with Nate and the girlfriend. I don't like these two characters. I'm gonna be honest. Like I get that Nate is kind of like the human one, so he's like comforting the mother, and like he's got some good moments, but God, I don't like this woman he's dating, Brenda. Um, they do this such a gross thing, which is he goes down on her in the parlor when they're about to have family dinner, and I'm like, not only is that just so weird to do, but it's like it does. This wasn't like they're just having sex in the house somewhere like off on their own. They're in the living room, or it's not even the living room. I think they were in the dead where the dead people do the funeral. um and your family's in the house, you're gonna have dinner, like you're literally about to sit down for dinner. Like, why would you do this? Wasn't like they went off to a bathroom or a closet or something and a mom walked in on them there. It's like doing it in the living room while your family's about to eat dinner. It's like it's such a weird detail. Like this woman's kind of crazy. And she plays it off later like she's like, I'm not conventional. Like, bitch, like this, it's not about being quirky or being like out there. It's like that's just gross, and that's not something you should do. And Nate too, but I don't know, she's just so weird. It's revealed at the end, or at least Nate suspects that she's the one who set the fire. Again, kind of confirming she's a little crazy. I don't know what her deal is. My wife thinks that she was sleeping with the dad, because my wife's watching the show with me. She's suspected for ever since we saw that she's got Nathaniel tattooed on her, that she was sleeping with the dad. 'Cause I think the dad's name was Nathaniel too. I'm not sure if that's the actual implication, but it could be. But either way, there's something just wrong with this woman. But it's not like they're not consistently portraying her as like crazy. It's like she's like she can analyze Nate and like analyze the psychology and tell him what's wrong with him, and it seems like she's got a good heart and stuff like that, but there's also all these hints that there's something wrong with her, but it's just not consistent. It's not like um wild example, but I'm thinking of someone like Lila on Dexter. If I'm not gonna explain that, but like if you know what I'm talking about, like there's characters who are crazy, and they're very, it's hinted that they're crazy from the very beginning. This one, it's like she goes back and forth. I just have a very hard time reading her, so I've not enjoyed her character, and I don't. All their sex scenes together, it doesn't amount to anything for me. I'm like, I don't know. I'd rather see more with the sister. I'd rather see more with Claire. Like she's barely in this story so far, but she is a little bit in this episode where she's like trying to hook up with one of the gangbangers, and he's like, don't act like you're tough. Like you don't know what this world is. So I don't know. It's like I'd like some more development on the sister's end. But either way, good episode overall. I like the end bit where you think like the gangbang leader is like angry with them, but then he just wants to pray with them. I thought that was a very nice, touching moment. But overall, solid episode. I'll continue to watch more. I'm gonna report back to you soon. So talk to you then. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back with another reaction. Just watched the fifth episode, I think it is. The one with the porn star. So that's the funeral of this episode. Um, it's an interesting one. I liked it, even though if it feels like the characters kind of backslide a little bit, but or at least the character David does. But I actually think that's kind of accurate. So in this episode, David is going to church with his mom like she asked him to. He gets offered the position of deacon, which I'm not 100% familiar with like the structure of the church, but I think it's sort of like a leadership position, but not necessarily like you don't have to be like a priest or something. So he gets offered it. But the church that he got offered to is a very conservative church, so he can't really be openly gay or whatever during it. So, um, what's funny, he actually comes out to his brother and like not directly, he holds the guy's hand and is like, pretty much says we're together. But then when the boyfriend wants to go to church with him, he's like, I don't think it's a good idea because he wants the deaconship. And the guy accuses him of like being ashamed of their relationship, and he breaks up with him. And this is something that's been building up for a while. It's like it's very interesting. And again, I think that the creator Alan Ball, I think is gay, and I read that in a book, but I think this is probably something he dealt with where it's like he almost can't accept the fact that he's gay a little bit. Like he does, but not like he can't say it out loud to people. And it's not just the fear of like, being rejected or, whatever the reasons why people are in a closet. It's like he almost doesn't want to be gay. He is gay, but he doesn't really want to embrace that. We kind of saw that when he was talking to the ex-fiance. We saw that when he wasn't really bothered by what those guys called him when they said a bad word to him. So it's like, and then at the end of the episode here, when Nate brings up Keith again, he's like, he's just a friend. Like he shuts it like down. It's like he's not, it's not exactly, he's in the closet, sure, but it's like, it's not that he's like in denial about himself. Like he knows he's gay. He likes men, and he can talk about it to like the subconscious. In this case, he's talking to the dead porn star. But it's like he doesn't really accept it like fully throughout his body. It's like there's a part of him that's still denying it, and by embracing the kind of deaconship that he got in that church, it's like he's rejecting the gay half, and it's like I'm gonna be the way I present to public. So it's a very interesting character. I like I said, I think that comes from probably Alan Ball himself, but that's going on. It's interesting. There's a storyline with Claire and the mother, which it's a good one. It's okay. It's like they go to her cousin. She's trying to bond with her daughter. It's a fairly typical storyline we've seen a bunch of times, and they come to an understanding. I will say I found them very rude at the cousin's house. Like the cousin and the aunt are like super close mother and daughter, and then Claire and the mother are like, oh, these people are so annoying, they're so lovey, and it's like, shut the fuck up. Like this whole like pessimistic thing they do is so, I mean, it's, again, this is an early 2000s show, this is probably fresher back then, but it's like, shut the fuck up. Like no one wants to hear your negativity. Yeah, I got that the aunt was kind of being a little bit insensitive when she's like, you can go exercise and get over your dead husband, and she's like, how, like, you don't understand what it's like to lose your husband. But bitch, you were also cheating on him too for the last 2 years, so stop acting like you are so invested in this relationship. Like I'm not saying I hate the mother or something for doing that. I'm just saying that like this intense negativity that the daughter has about everything is just so trite. It's so played out, and I get she's an edgy teenager, but like, just shut the fuck up. No one wants to hear like your negativity all the time. It's like people are happy and having a good relationship. That's something to admire. Like just shut up. But I mean, I understand it's the character, but I found that part a little annoying. But otherwise, it's a pretty standard storyline. The one that I hate so much is Nate and Brenda. I don't know what the fuck happened in this episode with them. So Nate meets Brenda's parents, and it's like they reveal that I guess they wrote a book about Brenda, and apparently she's a genius, but I don't know. I don't really see that. I don't see her being a genius. I see her just being like obnoxious. But whatever. She's a genius. And they wrote, I guess it was really hard to follow what was happening, but they wrote a children's book, I guess, about her and her brother. like it's called Nathaniel and Isabel, um, and I don't quite understand. I guess the storyline was that she was put in all these like hospitals and stuff that studied her because she's a genius, and that's what messed her up. But she doesn't come off as crazy a lot of the time. She comes off as obnoxious a lot of the time. It's not like she's dealing with this trauma that she can't deal with, and that's why she's so weird. No, she just comes off kind of like a bitch a lot of the time. Just like, haha, I do whatever I want because I'm quirky and I don't care about anything. And my parents are like, it's so all over the place, her character. I really hate her. um and then we get to meet her brother, and they both have their names like tramp stamped on each other. It's fucking weird. Like, are they like incestuous? I don't get it. Like, I don't quite know if they're gonna do something where it's like the only way they got through the trauma of being experimented on or whatever was they had each other and they love each other and they're very close. But like, there's this weird sexual angle between the two of them that like, maybe that's the storyline they're gonna go down. They're gonna go down the incest line, but I don't follow this character at all. She does not consistently behave the way you would expect her. I mean, I don't know where they're going with their storyline yet, but like, she's just all over the place, and I don't find her engaging or well written. So, um, yeah, I hate Brenda. So we'll see where the storyline goes. But either way, thanks for watching. I'm probably gonna watch another one here, and I'll report back later. So talk to you soon. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back with another reaction. Just watch the next one. This one was called. I'm blanking on the name. But anyway, it's just the next episode. But uh, we have some interesting stuff happening this episode. A Nate storyline that I actually kind of liked. Mainly because Brenda wasn't in it, although she's kind of in one with the sister Claire, which is kind of interesting. And then David has his own thing going on, and the mom does too. So Nate has kind of discovered that his dad would sometimes provide funeral services for people, and not charge them money, but instead take some service if they couldn't pay. So he got oil changes from one guy. He got weed from this lady. So he got some. I guess the dad smoked pot. And then one of the things he got was his room in like the back of a restaurant or something. And it was his like office, like not office, but it was like his private room that was just all on his own. And we don't know what he did there. The son goes through all these different possibilities what the dad could have done there. I mean, it seemed like the dad played cards and drank and smoked and listened to records, but you know, maybe he was doing some other stuff too. But the point is that Nate will never know his father, right? He's like, he didn't get the chance to connect when they were alive, so it'll always be in his head. And more so than just not understanding his father, he also doesn't understand what his father wanted him to be, and that's in a way an extension of he doesn't know what he wants to be. And the subconscious dad that he's talking to is like, you know, stop caring about what I thought, you know, just live your life. So I thought it was an interesting little storyline there, that I thought was pretty powerful. But we got that going on. We got David dealing with that one crazy lady who I'm so confused about her. So I thought she was like a stalker at first, but then I thought she was like a funeral crasher, like where because she went to that funeral and she circled another funeral. Although maybe I don't know. I thought she was gonna go to a different funeral, but maybe she was circling the next funeral that was gonna be at their house or something. I didn't really read it, but anyway, my point was I found it hard to read her. And then this one, she's like, she just wants some like intimacy, and she keeps, you know, going after David, and he's finally just like, leave me the fuck alone. Like, he doesn't tell her he's gay, but like, he's like, you know, leave me alone. And yeah, it's you know, she says like, you're lonely, and he is too. And then in this episode, he hooks up with some, you know, random gay guy at a club. But I think he misses Keith in that real relationship. Um, it's one thing I noticed in this one. He the character David, he's so like tight, and when he was in the car looking at the gay club, I was like, especially the fact that he was in a van, he looked like a serial killer, which I was like, this show was perfect fuel for him to eventually get the role of Dexter, because it's Michael C. Hall. um and he's so like tight and repressed, and that's such like the character of Dexter too. If you ever saw that show, he plays a serial killer, and he has to kind of hide himself. So great, great role to kind of prepare for that role in the future. So people obviously know him much more for Dexter, but I thought he does a very good job in this show too. um we get the mom kind of realizing she's got sexual needs, and she hooks up with the hairdresser again. It's okay storyline. The main thing though is Claire starts seeing Billy, the boyfriend, the brother of Brenda, and it's so weird. Like he's kissing her and like taking pictures of him like touching her boob and stuff. I think he's doing it just to mess with Nate. I think he's gonna use it in a future confrontation or something. I think he's jealous of Brenda and Nate. And again, it's this weird like incestuous vibes I'm getting from the two of them. But Brenda sort of acts like she's not into it. Like, I mean, there is some like tension between the two of them, but like, she's like, oh, Claire, he's just a jerk and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, this is really weird what he did with Claire. And he's at first I was kind of thinking that like, okay, maybe Billy's younger, because I think they said something about Brenda's the older sister and Billy's the younger one. So I thought maybe he's younger and he's closer to Claire's age, and maybe Claire's like 16 and he's like 18, maybe like 20, which is still kind of pushing it. But like he even calls he like calls it out. He's like, I'm not gonna see you anymore, Claire. What do you think I am, a pedophile? And I'm like, yeah, I do. You were kissing her and you were touching her boob. Like, this wasn't like, you weren't just like being flirty with her or something. Like, you were making like serious moves with her. You were even trying to go all the way in the car before. And I'm like, and I get it. He's like kind of crazy, I think. Like, I think that's what it's going for. But like, that's not okay. And like, I don't know. These two siblings are so fucking weird. And like, no one's acting like this is weird. No one's acting like Brenda is like, I mean, they call out like, oh, she's got a bad relationship with her parents. It's like, no, there's some serious weird vibes I'm getting from this character that go beyond just like being a brat or being manipulative or something. I can't tell whether she's unhinged or not. It's so weird. The brother too. The brother seems more clearly unhinged, but like, are they just sociopaths? Are they just psychopaths? Sociopaths just using people, and that's why they can put on a normal appearance at times. Like, if they were crazy, you think they wouldn't be able to put on this like kind of convincing front at different times. It comes off as like they're going back and forth between the two characterizations, and I just like, I don't know. I don't like it. We'll see how their storyline plays out eventually, but the weakest part of the show by far is Brenda and her brother. I don't gel with that at all. So, but either way, that's it for this reaction. Talk to you next episode. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back with another reaction. Just watched the 7th episode, I think, of season 1, Brotherhood. This is, I wouldn't. There's not a whole lot going on in this episode. We got a military death. Nate does his usual thing and tries to do the right thing, and they end up doing a military funeral, even though the brother didn't want to do that. There's a lot of little elements in this episode that I didn't feel went anywhere this episode. It might be setting up stuff for next episode. Like, a weird example is like the fact that Nate knew the brother from high school as a high school wrestler. It doesn't that's a detail, but it doesn't really relate to anything. Like, you would think that detail would circle back again, it to resolve the conflict or something, where he's like, hey, here's a story from when we were in high school together, and it makes the brother realize something, but it's just like oh, we went to high school together, but then the conflict is this completely separate thing about the brother wanting a military funeral and or the soldier wanting a military funeral and the brother not wanting that because he hates the army. Like, it's just a weird detail that doesn't go anywhere. And there's a couple of stuff this episode. So, there's a dinner with the family all has dinner with the guy who's sleeping with the mom. I think they're setting something up about the fact that she's working at the flower shop that's by the Russian guy who kissed her before. So there might be some kind of like conflict between the two. I don't know. There's the whole thing with Claire and the SATs, and I don't know. I find her so whiny and annoying. It's just like, I just want to say, shut up. Just shut up, Claire. Like, you're so like, oh god, everything sucks and everything's fake, and it's just, again, I know this is early 2000, like 2001 show, but god, this character trope is so obnoxious. I can't stand people who are like this. So that's kind of hard to watch. David's dealing with something at the church, hiring a priest. I don't know where this is going. I don't know if this guy's going to continue to be a character who they introduced, or if it's just David being conservative again. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. The biggest thing, I guess, in this episode was Nate and Brenda. So, the brother, again, is being super weird, and they have a fight because the brother went off his meds and she's got to stay home to look after him. And Nate gets pissed off, and it seems like they might have broken up at the end. She like out of kind of nowhere when they're fighting, she's like, "You think I fucked my brother?" And it's like, no, I didn't say that. Like, you said that. Like, you offered that up. That's not what he was saying at all. So, like, yeah, I think there's some incestuous thing going on here. Maybe they're gonna subvert it, and maybe they're gonna be like, no, it's not that. You were being judgmental or whatever. But, I don't know. I just hate so many of the characters on the show. Like, I've stopped hating Nate as much. I've kind of been like, okay, he's left some of the earlier problems behind, and now he's more solid. But God, I've disliked Claire more and more as it's gone on. Brenda, I hate her storyline so much. We'll have to see. But my whole point was just that, like, this episode, while it was enjoyable, it had a lot of threads I just didn't feel went anywhere. The only thread that really had a climax was Nate and Brenda. But everything else is just almost like set up, which maybe they'll pay it off in another episode here. I'm probably gonna watch another one coming up here, but yeah, it just felt like a whole lot of nothing this episode. I'm not saying just nothing in terms of like it has to be a serialized story or whatever. No, that's not what I'm saying. But like the episode itself doesn't really have a climax where the characters come away changed because of something. Like, Claire has this kind of thing where she's gonna go on this, like, I don't know what it is, like a outdoor adventure club kind of thing, but that's not really a character climax. She's not gone through a journey this episode, and it's like, if you're gonna do a show that's serialized, then you have to have these kind of payoffs every episode. If you're going to do a show that's like self-contained, like The Sopranos, well, there has to be kind of an emotional climax that encompasses the entire thing. That's what Sopranos episodes did. This show's kind of like half and half between. We've got sort of a serialized story, but it doesn't really commit to that idea. And it also doesn't really commit to being like this episodic, like, here's a problem, the characters are going to deal with it, and they're going to be different somehow by the end of it. Again, for Nate and Brenda, there was some climax to that story, but for the rest of these characters, it's like nothing really happened. Like, they didn't change or grow at all in this episode. I mean, I'm not saying they have to complete their character journey, but like, there's just really no payoff to the stuff we saw in this episode, and you can't do that if you're gonna do like a slower, self-contained episodes like this. So, but again, maybe it'll pay it off in another episode here, but I wasn't super satisfied with that episode as a whole. So, um, we'll see how things go. I'm waiting to reserve judgment on the show until I complete a season. I know there's 6 seasons, but so far it's been a little bit hit and miss for me. There's been some solid elements to this show that I was like, oh, that's I like that. I thought that's kind of interesting. And there's been a lot of elements that I'm just like, it just feels kind of sloppy. So, we'll see. We'll see how the season goes before we render judgment. But thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the next one coming up here. Hey, what's up? Just watched the next episode here, and I mean, there's the first thing that's popping into my head is Nate and Brenda. So Nate goes over there. I guess they're not broken up, but he goes over there, and there's this naked guy there, naked Australian guy there. He's like a friend of Brenda's who's staying there. She lied to him about the brother staying there. He wasn't. And they're all hanging out, and Nate realizes that she's been lying to him. He freaks out. They've been sleeping in the same bed. And then at the end, they have this confrontation where they're like, Brenda, I mean, she didn't cheat on him or anything, but she was using all this stuff to freak him out, to get him to leave because she has commitment issues and blah, 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 whatever. Fuck you. Seriously, like, I'm not approaching this from the angle of like, oh my god, she's a cheater or whatever. I accept the premise that she didn't cheat or whatever, and even if she did, it's not even the biggest deal of what's going on here. You don't get to like be manipulative as a personality trait and just be like, that's just who I am, and you have to kind of accept me. Like, fuck off. You have like take accountability for your actions. Don't act this way. You know, it doesn't matter that you were like poked and prodded and your parents weren't nice to you growing up. Like, you're responsible for your own actions. I absolutely hate like this idea that like I'm just damaged and you have to kind of accept me for who I am. No, just be a better person. And I know what you're gonna say. It's like, well, isn't that like the Sopranos? They're all damaged and they act like they shouldn't. Sure, but when they do it in the Sopranos, it's kind of fun. It's like they're mafia guys. It's like whatever. Like, this Brenda is so fucking annoying. Like, the sister too, to an extent too, but like she's just so like, she acts just so incredibly obnoxious, and then it's just like, you don't understand what it was like to go through what I did growing up, which I don't know what the trauma she went through. The fact that she was studied and put in front of like psychiatrists, like, fuck off. Like, this, I find this character just so incredibly annoying. I hate that Nate went over there and it's like, I'm sorry for freaking out on you. And yes, like, he got a bullshit sorry out of her, which is not real. Like, I don't think she's really sorry for what she did, and I think she's going to continue to do that in future episodes. I know I shouldn't take. These are not real people, right? This is a television show. This is not really happening, but like, they're behaving in a way that's so unbelievable to me, and so unbelievably toxic that I'm just like, I don't want to see you at all. I don't get enjoyment out of this character. It's not even particularly well written for me because I don't even get, she's just toxic without the appeal for me. I don't get what's appealing about Brenda. She's not done anything that's like kind of nice besides having sex with this guy a lot. And I know there was the whole thing about getting the brothers on the bus so they could confront their feelings. I don't actually think that was like, I'll accept that it helped them in some vague way, but I don't think she's done anything to merit like my interest in her as a person. Like, I don't find her particularly smart. I don't find her particularly insightful or interesting. It's like, sure, she's like, oh, Nate, you're a slacker and you run away from your things. Like, that's just like an obvious thing. It's just like she read the script. Like there's no unique insight I genuinely feel like she has into anything to make her be like this. Oh, she's this complicated person who is like so interesting, and I want to deal with all her bullshit just to deal with the incredible woman she is. It's like, no, fuck off. She's not anything. Um, I don't know. This is like one of the most. I don't think I've ever hated a character like this since Margaret from Boardwalk Empire. And at least for Margaret, it took me a couple of seasons to stop liking her. I actually liked her in the first season. I hate this character, Brenda. I don't know what they're gonna do with her, but like, man, this is awful, awful. We have some other stuff. Federico leaves because he got an offer from Kroner and he's gonna take more money. So we'll see how they deal with that moving forward. It's sad to see him go, but they also haven't utilized him in a bunch of storylines or anything like that. The mother's having this thing about like she's kind of fantasizing about both men. I think she just is trying to feel alive or whatever. And it's again, it's not even like at least I found that kind of interesting. I'm like the mother is a slightly interesting character for me. So it's not just that she's cheating. I mean, she's not really cheating on the hairdresser, but like her fantasies and stuff are at least like okay, I get it. You're a repressed woman. You've been kind of denied life for so long, and now you're trying to explore it while when your husband's dead, and you feel a little guilty about that, but you're also not gonna shut off your feelings. I found that kind of an interesting character. So it's not the cheating or the infidelity angle I don't like with Brenda. It's just the whole like she's just so fucking obnoxious, and just not likable in any single way. The sister, her storyline this episode was so weird. So she goes on the camping trip with the hiking trip or whatever, those guys. The teacher is sleeping with one of the students, and they don't call this out as like I don't quite understood what happened. So he kicks them out at the end because I guess Claire led them on a wrong path, but like wasn't that the whole point that you were supposed to listen to each of the students no matter where they led? And if it's an issue where they go off the path, why are you giving them the option to go whatever direction they say? I don't understand. It's like you're giving them the choice of what direction to go, but only if they go in the direction you want them to. And when he kicked her out, I think it was kind of because he was scared that Claire was going to say something about him sleeping with her. And he's like, hey, sure. He even, it's so weird. He even tries talking to her like a friend afterwards. He's like, hey, is your friend one to talk? Because I don't want her ruining my life. The show is not really like calling out that this is like a problem that this guy slept with her. I don't know how old this guy is. It seemed like he was significantly older. Like this is a high school girl, like same age as Claire, like around 16. Maybe 17, because kids can be like 1 year different in the same grade, but it seemed like this guy was like late 20s or something. Maybe you can headcanon that he's like a young 20s guy who was asleep, which is still wrong, but I don't know. Claire doesn't even really call it out. There's no point where she's like, fuck you, you pedophile. Like the show is so weird about this like older guy, younger girl thing that no one's calling out the completely inappropriate behavior of like the brother Billy, this guy. Again, maybe it's the early 2000s. Like this, I don't think this shit would fly nowadays. But like, a lot of this stuff does not seem right to me, and no one's saying anything. This show is not even really calling it out as an issue. So I also don't understand. There was this whole point about like Claire was talking with this boy, and it seemed like they were kind of liking each other. And the twist reveal was that he's actually, even though he was pretending like he didn't like camping or hiking or whatever, he's actually been doing it for a long time, and he's gonna go to Stanford. And then she's like, oh my god, all guys are such pieces of shit. Like, what? Because he pretended not to like camp. I guess maybe in her mind it's like he's a liar, but I don't understand some of these character reactions. No one in the show kind of reacts the way that in a way that makes sense to me about anything. Like Brenda does not react in a normal way. Claire does not react in a normal way. Nate and David sort of do. the mom is kind of weird, but I kind of understand her weirdness. Like I get where she's coming from, but like these characters are just so fucking weird, and not weird in a way that like is like David Lynch, where it doesn't make sense for a reason or something. They're just kind of just odd and strange, and they have weird reactions to stuff. Um, so yeah, I really don't know where we go with this show. Like, um, I hear so many good things, and there are good moments here. Um, but there's just so much weirdness too that it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. Maybe the maybe the season finale will tie everything up. We've got a couple more episodes to go. I think we got like 4 or 5 more to go. But yeah, we'll see. So I will watch some more coming up here and talk to you guys then. All right, so I just watched the ninth episode. I don't know what the title was either, but this was a really good one. I This is what I'm talking about. I like these episodes where there's a complete character story being told about several of the characters. I thought it was actually a really well done episode. They even brought it back to the foot guy before. And it's a sad episode. So the foot guy is the one that Claire toe she sucked. His brother is playing in the mom's room, and there's a gun underneath the bed, and he kills himself. So really sad. And Claire is dealing with this guy who she hated, but now she feels very sorry for in this moment. And I don't know if she's gonna get back together with the guy. I don't actually kind of hope she doesn't. For me, her story in this episode was I don't know if it was exactly her story, but like I really liked that she was like comforting this guy. Like it was one of the first moments we've seen of her not being like completely selfish, and like it's not about whether she forgave this guy or wants to date him again. I kind of hope she doesn't, but it's just like you're in pain here, and I'm here for you in this time of pain, no matter what personal history was between us. So I really like I found her very mature in this episode, and I really like that, and I kind of hope they don't go down the route of they start dating again, because I almost think that's the wrong message. It's almost like, hey, you might have done something I didn't like in the past. I hate you personally, but like you're going through something traumatic and profound here, and I'm here for you as a human being almost. So yeah, cool, really really good story there. We have David. Basically, he runs into Keith again at a gay club while he's with this new boyfriend, the dancing instructor. And it's he's obviously jealous that Keith's with a new guy, and he realizes that this kid he's with, not like a kid, but like this young guy that he's with is like not serious, and like too much of a player and stuff, and that's not who he is. Like this party boy, he was doing drugs this episode. We'll connect that to the mother story, but he realizes this isn't who he is. Like he's a serious person, and I think he's realizing what he lost in Keith, who was like that too, like a serious person, but was just accepting of who he was. And yeah, I wonder if they'll get back together. I don't know if that's the case or not, but he's kind of become more accepting of who he is. I mean, he's not out. I mean, he's out with his family now, sort of, like not with the mom, but the sister and the brother. He's fully out with. He's still the deacon at his church. That's a whole thing. We'll see. I imagine there's going to be some kind of confrontation about that. But he's slowly been kind of accepting himself more by going through this stuff, and I appreciate you feel him kind of loosening up a little bit, and like not being just this kind of insanely wound tight person we saw before. So I like that a lot. Nate has a short little story in this episode with Brenda going to different funeral homes. The storyline with Brenda doesn't really go anywhere, but I like his confrontation of the deadbeat dad at the end. I thought that was really good. And then the mom goes camping with that one guy. she accidentally takes David's ecstasy that he put in the aspirin bottle, and she's going through this kind of profound experience where she finally gets to talk with the dad. I mean, it's not really the dad; it's her own subconscious again, but she's kind of understand what went wrong in their relationship and is accepting that it's okay to move on. So, I all in all, I really liked this episode. I thought it had those emotional climaxes where I'm like, okay, the character went on a journey in this episode, and they're different, even in little small ways. That's okay. But it felt like there was payoff to like actual stuff that happened in this episode. So I actually really liked it. A great contrast to the previous episode, but yeah, we'll see where we go from here. So this is gonna be a short reaction, but solid episode. And I will get back to you with the next one. So talk to you then. All right, back with another reaction. So just watch the next episode here. That was episode 10, I think. And in this episode, they get a new mortician. I don't know what the title is, but a new person to work on the dead people. It's this woman who is very obnoxious, dresses inappropriately, says whatever's on her mind, and he gets on everyone's nerves. I thought we were gonna introduce like a new character here that was gonna be like, oh, we're gonna maybe follow through with this character. She felt like a fun addition to the series as like someone who just says everything, and it contrasts very well with this family. She even calls it out in the episode. She's like, you guys are so like fragile and no one says anything. And she has this great line where it's like, I've never worked at a funeral home this depressing. Which, yeah, I could see that. I could sort of see how like repressed everyone is, who they don't talk. We're not given a clear reason why. Like, I really wish we had learned more about the dad. Like, I wish there was some kind of reason of why a shadow kind of hangs on this family. Like, sure, it's because they work in a funeral home, but why are they so repressed? Why are they so like ugh? That would be interesting. Maybe we'll explore that more. But they fire her in this episode, and then they hire back Federico. So that's cool. I'm trying to think what else happens. Oh, the mom's dating the Russian guy, but it's kind of not serious. She has this funny scene in a bathroom with this Russian lady, but it doesn't really go anywhere. But it's it's cute. David is like he meets up with Keith again, and he's trying to get like have sex with him, but he doesn't want to because he's in a relationship with this new guy. And David's, I don't know, he's in kind of his slut phase right now. He just wants like some sex. Sorry if you hear my dog running around, but that's going on. There's this thing with Brenda and Billy. This is the first time we've really seen them like outside where Nate's not there. So, or one of the family members wasn't there. So that's kind of cool. We got to see their solo adventure a little bit. But I don't know. Even this family, even their parents, I find very like they're very hard to read. This family's just so hard for me to like gel into, even when we make them standalone characters, not tied directly to like being in Nate's scenes or being in the family scenes. Like when we just saw Billy on his own and Brenda on her own, or them together, it's just really hard for me to gel with them. I don't particularly enjoy the way they're written. I don't find them that compelling. I find there's this whole drama around them, this artificial drama that I just don't care about. I don't care about Billy's problems. I don't care about Brenda's problems. I don't care about this mystery about what's like Billy's psychotic or whatever. I don't care. Put him in the asylum. Don't put him. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't find these characters interesting at all. It seems like we might be picking up the Kroner story again a little bit. I was thinking before that like I almost wish we would have. It's weird how they pace the rival funeral home business idea, because you would think we would start out with like the funeral of the week type episodes, getting to know the business, getting to know the problems, and then introduce an antagonist in Kroner and have that threat build up. But the problem was they introduced that threat at the beginning, build it up, then stop it for a while. We have not heard from Kroner for a while now, and the whole threat about their problems has kind of disappeared. I don't know if it's because David threatened that guy or not, but um, it's like we've taken a lull in the action. And I think it would have been actually a lot better if we had just started with like no threat, just normal funeral business, learning the business, all that stuff. And then when things are starting to go well, then bring in this antagonist, and then the pressure's mounting like there, and we could have gone all the way through rather than this kind of break in the action that we've had. It's just weird pacing for a story like this. So um yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, this show is got its interesting moments, but there's so many flaws in the storytelling. Like, um, so far this is not a masterpiece at all. Maybe there's some great twist I'm not missing, and I've people have told me the finale is like, oh my god, it's gonna blow you away, but it's a big ask to get through 6 seasons of this to get there. So we will finish this show. We're gonna finish this first season, and we're gonna decide from there if we're gonna keep going. But I do enjoy watching it. I find these characters quirky to an extent. I like the family. I liked Claire's story. I'm really liking Claire a lot now. And she I think the boyfriend Gabe, I think he might be like committing suicide. Because he disappeared in this episode. So that's sad too. But yeah, I don't know. I find I've actually found Claire to be a very like she's matured a lot since then. So um, yeah, it's interesting. But either way, we'll see where it goes from here. I'm just gonna watch the next one, and then we'll keep talking about the series. So talk to you guys then. All right, back with another reaction. We're coming close to the finale here. I think we have 2 more episodes after this, but um, in this episode, the David and Nate and also Brenda go to Las Vegas for a funeral directors convention. They get into a little bit of a not an argument or whatever, but like they confront Kroner about one burning down the house for their own insurance money, but two for trying to drive them out of business. And there's I don't know what this accomplished per se. I don't know if it really moved the needle at all, but it's nice to see them standing up for themselves. We got this episode. I'll just say up front, I didn't think this episode had a lot of payoffs. The biggest one was, I guess, for David, but he kind of goes off the rails a little bit here. I will say I think this is a really nuanced portrayal of a gay man on television. I think that probably comes from the creator, but David's just full of so much like kind of self-hatred a little bit. Like he goes out after he gives his big speech, he goes out with the guys, they take him to a strip bar, they don't know he's gay. The stripper gives him a lap dance. She's like, "Why isn't your dick hard?" And it's like, it's weird for a stripper to say that. I was just like, that's your entertainment for the client. Like, what if he can't get a hard on or something? Like, why are you calling that out? That's like a weird thing to do. And it kind of feels like it's just there to facilitate basically the announcement that he's gay to everyone. Which I was like, if I was the guy who paid her, I'd be like, hey, if you're not gonna dance for him, give me the rest of the lap dance or something. But regardless of that, like it seems like that whole scene was just there to facilitate him feeling kind of I don't know what the right word for it is, ashamed in front of everyone. He's sort of both. He's like he admits he's gay to people, but also his mom found out he was gay last episode. The one they fired told her, and she was gonna confront David about it. I think he could tell, and he wasn't ready to have that conversation. So in response to this kind of humiliation he felt, he hires a gay hooker, And weird, he doesn't want to take him back to his hotel room. He's not sharing the room with David or anything. That's not. I don't know why he didn't want to bring the guy back. I understand why you wouldn't necessarily want to bring it um to your home where you live, but like a hotel room is fine. Like he's just gonna leave afterwards, and you're leaving the next day. It's not a big deal. So I didn't quite get that. But instead of having sex with him in there, he goes and does it like in a parking lot, and he gets caught by the police and arrested. Um, when he's banging the prostitute, he says, a word I'm not going to say here, but it's kind of like him. He can't, like, he almost can't accept the fact that he's gay, and he has to like kind of take it out on other people. He's like halfway in between that. But anyway, Keith comes and like bails him out, and he's like, "I'm helping you out here, but I'm never gonna do anything for you again. Like, you're too fucked up." I mean, that is kind of weird. Your ex, you had to bail your ex out for begging a prostitute in a parking lot. It's he's not in a good spot, self acceptance wise, and he's acting out and doing wrong things. Like I said, it's a very nuanced portrayal. There's that kind of self-hatred. It's almost like, in another show, I think they would externalize this. There would be like a reason, like the mother's like really homophobic or whatever, or there's a lot of external stuff hurting him, and that's why he's acting out. But this is really all coming from in him, and it doesn't really seem to be any pressure from these other characters. Like, I mean, the closest thing is maybe the mom. She seemed a little freaked out, but she hasn't. I think she'd be pretty accepting if they just had that conversation. But this kind of repressed attitude is coming really from him, and like I said, it's a very nuanced portrayal that I find very interesting. So, I thought that was pretty cool. Nate and Brenda have a run-in with the crazy brother who's crazy. He stalked them, and he came to Vegas, and he broke into their hotel room and took pictures of them. So I think that's headed for a big confrontation. We'll have to see where it goes. Like I said, I don't find the brother that storyline that engaging, so I don't really care about it. Claire, meanwhile, is visiting that kid. Turns out he didn't die. He just overdosed, and it's implied it was a suicide attempt. And then at the end there, she gets in bed and kisses him and tells him she loves him. But as we saw like a few episodes ago, it's not so much about, I don't know if she loves him. It's more so like she just wants to be needed. And that's an interesting point, because I've talked about this before, but the sister feels so isolated. It feels like this family really ignores her. And I'm like, they're very laissez-faire about where this 16-year-old girl is going, how she's like staying out all night and not coming home. I don't know. The Fishers are not good parents. Like, and in this episode, the mother's trying to learn how to not be so much of a control freak and therefore become a better flower arranger. I don't care about that. But I'm like, you don't want to be a control freak, but there's a difference between being a control freak and like watching where your daughter is and like paying attention to her. The family really just seems to ignore her. And that's probably why she feels this way. It's actually diegetic storytelling there, but I'm just like, these are bad parents. Like, that mom's a bad parent. Like, you need to be paying attention to your daughter, because she's gonna hook up with this guy who's a total. I mean, I have some sympathy for him where he's at, but he just does not strike me as someone she should be with, and I didn't want her to be with him. They kind of leaned down that path, which I said before I was hoping they wouldn't go down. But, man, this was just some bad parenting. This family, it's so fucked up, and it's not coming from, like, The Sopranos, they had this toxicity, and you're like, okay, it's coming from the mob, right? And also just general life, but a lot of it's coming from Tony being a mafioso. This family's so it's like so messed up. Like, they just can't, like, communicate with each other at all. I mean, they tried. It's not as bad as The Sopranos, but at the same time, there's just all these problems that are coming more from their internal lives, which I will say this show, probably more than any other show, is very psychological. You see that in the way they talk with the dead people, with their visions and dream sequences and stuff. Um, I don't. It doesn't quite amount to the level of like art that like The Sopranos did it, but it is a very introspective show in that regard. So I find it kind of interesting. So anyway, I will watch some more episodes sometime soon, and we'll get back to you then. So talk to you then. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back with another reaction. Don't be freaked out by the size of my microphone. It's not the microphone, it's a foam sphere that goes around it. I was just streaming today, and everyone was like, "What is it with that microphone?" They're making all sorts of jokes about it. It's a new pop filter to help my microphone when I record sound better. So don't worry about that. I know it's huge, but we're just gonna get through this. So um, just watched the 12th episode, I think, of season 1. And we have a few storylines happening this episode. Claire's storyline, I don't think it really went anywhere. It's just she's dealing with this boy, and it might be setting up something that's going to happen next episode. I think the guy's either going to die or get committed or something. But I don't think it's going to be a happy ending for her. She really is so ignored. Like, she literally, I don't think she speaks with one member of our family this episode. It's all the boy and school stuff. I feel so bad for this girl. Like, I think it's her problems probably are a result of how much her family ignores her. The series doesn't like say that. It doesn't say she's the ignored one, but yeah, it's they pay zero attention to this child. So that's really sad. But we have two other storylines. One is Brenda and Billy. Billy's crazy. She cuts him off. He does this really weird thing where he's threatening Nate. Shows him pictures of him with his sister, and the brother doesn't even care either. I would be like, if I saw that, I'd be like, fuck you, dude, and like attack him. But again, it just shows how little they care about Claire. He's just like, stay away from my sister, she's young. It's just like, dude, are you not like, do you not know, like, this is the first time you saw this? I would like attack him. But yeah, they don't give a shit about Claire. But then he cuts off his tattoo and tries to attack Brenda. She knocks him out and then has him committed. So I will say this storyline with Billy I found very like melodramatic. I mean, they've been setting up these pieces for a while, but like this feels hokey. This feels like television writing. This is not like a natural, this doesn't feel like a natural kind of thing that's happened. It feels like something the writers have kind of thrown in there for drama. So not a fan of the storyline at all. I don't like Brenda. I don't like Billy. I don't like this storyline. We'll see how it ties up in the final episode, but yeah, not a big fan. The storyline though that I did really like was David's. I found, like I said, this must come from Alan Ball's experience or something, but like I really like the character of Dave. Like he's really grown on me, this struggle. This guy full of self-hatred. It's like one step forward, two steps back, or one step back. I don't even know, but like he comes out. He like, their funeral of the week is this gay kid who was murdered. Again, they live in L.A. I'm not saying none of this stuff ever happens in big metropolitan cities, but like the series sometimes acts like it's set in like rural, bumfuck nowhere. And I'm like, you live in LA. there's so many gay people. And I'm not saying that this stuff doesn't happen there, but like it treats it like it almost has a small town vibe. And I'm like, you're in the middle of like the biggest like city on earth. But regardless of that, this episode deals with David's like self-hatred a lot, and he's finally able to put words to it. He comes out to his mom, but at the end there, he's still like, the ghost is still there talking to him, and I mean, it's obviously it's David self-conscious, but he's like he's still full of self-hatred. Like he doesn't want to be gay. He doesn't like this aspect of himself, even though he knows he is. He thinks there's something wrong with him for being gay, even like on a subconscious level. So I found this portrayal of a gay character like this very nuanced. I like his storyline. I think he's a very complicated character. I like it a lot. Um, there's an interesting scene with Federico, who really is not happy with it. It's interesting. I felt his anti-gay stance was it felt a little like cliched. It didn't feel like quite genuine. I almost wish they would have seeded this a little bit beforehand and had Federico being like, um, having some anti-gay stuff before, but it kind of feels very like, man, they're just writing Federico as like a homophobe now for. It just feels a little cliche, his attitude towards it. When all the other aspects of Federico are kind of unique. Like, I mean, he's like a undertaker, or like a surgeon, whatever they call it, who operates on the bodies, but he's all like proud of his work. That's all very nuanced and original, and I was just like, oh, you gave him the cliche Hispanics or homophobic kind of thing, and I'm like, it's okay to make him homophobic, but like I would have, I don't know, I wouldn't have gone so traditional about it. I liked his attitude when he first kind of came in, and he's like, haha, look at all those gay people upstairs. They're kind of joking around about it. He doesn't strike me as like the type of character who'd be like old school, Latino machismo, like where I come from, we don't do like that kind of stuff. He just strikes me as a more original character than that, and I would have written him as taking a more kind of light-hearted homophobic stance. Like, again, he thinks it's kind of funny or something. That would be my more natural read of the character than just being like, where I come from, men are men, and we don't do any of that kind of stuff. Because he was anti the whole Latino gangbanger thing early in a few earlier episodes. So I would have given him a different kind of approach to it rather than going the cliche route. But it's not a huge deal either way. Like I said, this show is kind of hit and miss for me. We'll see how this final episode goes. I'm not actually committing to watching the rest of the show. I think I might, but we'll see here. But thanks for listening to this, and we'll check out the finale right now. So talk to you then. All right, back with the final episode here. The episode's called Knock Knock, and I don't really know why it's called that. There's only one instance I can remember of someone knocking on the door, which is the crazy lady who, in this episode, they're doing a funeral for the aunt of the crazy woman who's been kind of like stalking David. It's funny, it's the Kroner people who kill her with a golf ball. But I don't know. This episode was kind of a disappointment in the sense that like, wow, this is how you end that season with this very kind of lukewarm note. Like, I get what they were trying to say at the ending here about like, oh, there's something, life is, we have to make each moment count because we never know when it's gonna come to an end. But that message isn't really like a thing throughout the episode and all these storylines or whatever. It's kind of just Nate's storyline. So Nate and Brenda get into a car crash, and then it's revealed when Nate does his brain scan that he's got like something wrong with his brain, which could have a stroke. He could have a stroke in the future, but they're not sure yet. And they're really playing up the drama of this, again, very lukewarm diagnosis. It wasn't like he had a brain tumor or something where you're like, oh wow, Nate is like in serious danger. It's just like, yeah, you might have a problem down the line or something, but it's just like they're not really committing to any sense of like drama here, like upping the stakes and being like Like if Nate had been given like a fatal diagnosis or something, or not even necessarily fatal, but like, yeah, you got a serious problem here. Even if he survive, like you could write it so he survives or whatever for more seasons, but that would have raised the stakes and made his whole thing about like we have to make each moment count kind of mean something. It honestly feels very tacked on. Like it feels like, oh, okay. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand this ending here of like they're having the christening party for Federico's son, um, and it's like a celebration of life in this house of death, and the family has kind of become more open a little bit, but they're just does the show doesn't really feel like it's consistent. Like the theme's not consistent, the characterization is not always consistent, the writing is not always consistent. I found um yeah, I found a lot of the characters just not super consistent, and I just the main thing I'm thinking as we end this season is like, wow, this is what it was all for. This very milk toast, lukewarm take about how life is precious. Like, if you're gonna go down that route of a message, like let's demonstrate that throughout the episodes here. Sure, we've had a little bit of Nate being like, you know, his usual like when a family member's like, I'm so sad, and Nate gives some fucking stupid pretentious nonsense about like his own lived experience, which he doesn't even have any lived experience. So how is he so like how is he so wise when dealing with his family members when he's not even lived his life? um it's just like we could have had more of that. We could have put the family in danger, or could have really demonstrated that like, yeah, death's around the doorstep. Sure, the father died in the first episode, but like we've not even really got to learn too much about the dad, which I guess you could say maybe is the point. Like this family is so like uncommunicative that that's why they didn't know the dad. But like to end on this shot of the dad walking up the stairs, and this one didn't seem like anyone was imagining him there, so it might have actually been his ghost or something. I'm just like, we should have made the dad more of a character. We should have explored this family more. Like we don't their storylines don't feel connected as like one cohesive story about this family all dealing with the same trauma. Like Claire called it out a couple episodes ago, and she's like, oh yeah, my family doesn't talk about anything because we want to like we're scared of offending anyone or something. But that idea has not really been like a consistent theme that joins all the family storyline. All the family storyline feels very separate and not really thematically tied together. Claire's especially, I feel like nothing happened with her this season, like or this episode. Like the boyfriend robs a liquor store, and his face is on camera, so it's obviously going to be a problem. But they don't even pay it off this season. It's so weird to bring that thing up and not. I guess it's hinting that like, hey, you know, the hammer is gonna or the shoe's gonna fall. Something's gonna happen to this kid, but I've just felt a serious lack of payoff for a lot of storylines, inconsistent writing, and just overall, the show is just very hit and miss. That's the best way I can describe it. The show is very hit and miss for me. It's not coming on strong like something like Deadwood or Rome. It's not even a slow burn kind of excitement like The Wire or Sopranos. It's more so just like I like it to an extent and I don't like it to an extent. So I might keep watching more episodes here. I'm watching it with my wife, and she seems to enjoy the show. It's something for us to watch. But yeah, I'm not really like invested to the point where I'm like, oh, I need to make something out of this. Like The Wire was clear from season 1 that I was like, okay, this is gonna be a part of my life from now on. I don't. We'll see how the future seasons go, but you know, 6 Feet Under I've only gotten like small references here and there, like people telling me like, oh, you should check out 6 Feet Under. It's not like The Wire. I even have more people saying like, check out Sons of Anarchy more than I have 6 Feet Under. So I don't know where this sits in the list of greatest shows of all time. What I've gotten so far has not blown me away, but we'll see where it goes from here. I mean, it got 6 seasons, so I mean, that tells you something. Rome and Deadwood didn't get anything. Didn't get barely any seasons. That's because they were also very expensive shows to film. This show doesn't look like it's nearly as expensive. But I don't know. We'll have to see. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching this. There'll be more reactions probably coming. So stay tuned for those. And I will talk to you then. So see ya.